Welcome to the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge Magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space. Few topics will be off limits, and we have some amazing guests to share with you.
Our intention is that our conversations will spark your own curiosity to create a life that lights you up and inspires you to be kind, thoughtful, open-minded to yourself and others.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m. and all podcast platforms. So, Brian, what are you curious about today?
Okay, here we go, Kelly. The magical one, Kelly Wagner, my amazing co-host. I just have to shout you out.
Oh, my goodness.
You look brilliant today. You're like all lit up and smiley. And
I put makeup on. Did my hair.
I think it's your hair. It's really, the hair is really doing it today.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, Shiraz is here. I gotta bring it. So, Brian, who do we have today not in studio, like calling in from here, there, and everywhere? Who's our guest?
In the Being Curious Show environment, we have Shiraz, and Shiraz is just an extraordinary human being. He's the creator of Energetic Magic. We definitely can't wait to hear more about that. He also published a book, How to Rewrite Reality, in 2019. And there it is. Shiraz is holding it up for those tuning in live and those that will watch this on YouTube and other places later. We're really grateful to have you here today, Shiraz. And we want, to the best of our ability in the short time that we have, you're one of these people that really has not just an extraordinary story about your life, but a very touching, a very moving story. And I'd love for people to tune into that. And number one, and then you've also created these really, really empowering access points for people to get to know you and then really engage with your work. And so first and foremost, tell us your story, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm really honored to be here. And my story started when I was 22 years old. I was in university studying to be a doctor. I was also a bodybuilder. And I had my whole life laid out. I knew exactly what I was going to do. The world was my oyster, except the world didn't give me pearls. It gave me arthritis. And I don't mean that, my shoulders kind of hurt arthritis. I mean intense pain in every single joint in my body. It got so bad that there were nights where I would sip my dinner through a straw because my jaw was so swollen and painful I couldn't move it or chew. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And you may not have been through this kind of physical trauma, but have you ever been in that situation where you've got the plan, you know what you're going to do with your life, and then out of nowhere, bam, that plan is gone and you're left scrambling, wondering what the hell? So yeah, I know what that feels like, and I can relate. You're getting hands up here. So,
you're among friends.
And the emotions just come up. There's confusion, there's frustration, there's anger, despair. You're asking, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? And then, of course, what am I supposed to do now? You go into self-judgment. You go into self-pity. I went through all of this. I spiraled into depression. But then eventually I had to come to terms that this was my life now, and I have to do something to try to get out of it. So I did the things people typically do. I tried medication. I worked for a bit, and then it just stopped working. And first of all, don't get me started on child-proof caps for arthritis medicine, because you can't get into it. Whoever invented that just needs to be shot. Yeah. Then I tried diet and supplements. Didn't work either. Then I said, what else is out there? I started getting into yoga, acupuncture. Someone suggested magnets. Anything that I thought might work, I gave it some time. And sometimes it would work for a while, and then the effects would just go away. And I couldn't figure out what the hell is going on here. So it wasn't until 18 years later that I met the man that would redefine what reality was for me. I'd flown to India, and because it was in India, I thought he was going to do some sort of Reiki energy healing kind of thing. I was like, heal, Shiraz, heal. Right? But that's not what happened. He just sat me down and talked to me for 2 weeks. He went through my entire life's history. It was like being with a psychiatrist, only he wasn't actually trying to solve anything. He was just gathering information on my life. And at the end of the 2 weeks, he says, Shiraz, you believe you're responsible for everyone in your life. And I said, no, I don't. He goes, oh, I know you don't think you do. But from everything you've told me, you've created this belief that you need to be responsible for everyone. And it started when you were 8 years old. And I thought about it and I said, okay, I know I'm a responsible guy. I'm usually the designated driver. I make sure my friends are taken care of. But I don't think I'm responsible for everyone. That's crazy. And that's just too much. And he said, oh, you don't want to be responsible for everyone. I said, yeah. And when you're lying in bed in pain, you don't have to be responsible for anyone. And you don't have to feel guilty about it.
Ooh.
Yeah. When people see you're struggling just to get through the day,
Right.
they're not going to ask you to take care of them. The arthritis isn't the problem. It's the solution to the problem you don't realize you have.
Huh.
So
you're like, tell me more.
yeah. Well, actually, my next comment was, well, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, why would anyone do that to themselves? Right? And he said, but that's what most chronic illnesses are. Solutions to problems people don't realize they have. Right? So I thought about that, and I said, okay, wait a sec. If what you're saying is true, then all I have to do is say I'm not going to be responsible for anyone else, and the arthritis should go away. And I'm not really believing it, but that's the logic he's just laid out, right? And he just looked at me straight-faced. He's like, yes, if you actually believe it deep down, then you won't need the arthritis anymore. So I gathered my will, and I said, I'm not going to be responsible for anyone but me. And you know what happened in that moment? Nothing. But the next morning I woke up, there was no pain, there was no inflammation.
Oh my gosh.
Mobility. I could even breathe better. I could feel more oxygen going in my lungs. So I'm freaking out, right?
Right.
Because,
Of course you were.
yeah, 18 years of trying everything and then overnight, boom, done. Right? And now I want to be clear. The damage done to my body by the arthritis was still there. It didn't just magically go away. But the arthritis itself was gone. And there was a track at the place I was staying, and I was on that track every day, but I was doing my little old man shuffle because that's the condition of my body. It was like a 70-year-old man. I'm hunched over. I'm shuffling along, going really slowly. And the sad thing is I'm getting passed by 70-year-old people. I'm like, oh, this is just embarrassing now. But this particular day, I'm passing everyone. I'm weaving in and out of people. I'm passing people way younger than me. And they're looking at me because they've seen me for a few weeks now. And they're like, what the hell?
What happened to you?
Yeah, right. And I was just like, I know, right? And when I went home, no one asked me to be responsible for them. Because that was a belief I created when I was 8 years old based on the circumstances of my life then. It didn't actually exist, but I was living my entire life based on that story in my mind.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Do you have, this is really interesting, Shiraz, because often when we have these conversations, we elicit these moments in people's lives, like at 8 years old, they had their first intuitive experience, or they met a certain person, or some transformational experience happened. Do you remember what that was at 8 years old? Was it a significant thing, or was it over time?
So what it was at 8 years old, my mom, who also had arthritis, it started to get really bad. And I made this decision, I need to take care of my mom. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I realized, well, if I'm taking care of her, I probably have to take care of my brother and sister too. And then I just kept adding people until the belief became, I need to take care of everyone. Now, at 8 years old, I wasn't really taking care of my mom. In my mind, I was. But I was just this 8-year-old kid trying to get by in life. But that's
well, and there's not, especially as children, we're not necessarily conscious in our everyday life to that decision that you made, but spiritually, you made a decision and it had this imprint neurologically, throughout your body, embedded in your cells, embedded in the programming that you were giving to yourself for this life. And I think that's a really important example of how powerful these things are that happen in our life. And it took you, this whole other lifetime of going through all these things that didn't work for you to be in a conversation with a certain person that helped raise your consciousness to this moment of clarity that then let you move on with your life. And it's a beautiful story, and I hope people really hear it that way. But it's an awesome example of not just how powerful these, let's generally call them traumas that happen, but then how powerful the other side, the positive side that says, hey, once you become conscious and once you can acknowledge these things, you then move into the power and they no longer have power over you. And so maybe, Shiraz, I'd love to hear what it was like for you to make that transition to then be in power in your life.
It was actually interesting because when I got home and everything was different, I didn't just say, oh, you know what, this is going to be my life's work now. I just went back to work, right? But I was exploring all this stuff. And as I explored it, I found out this isn't about illness. This is about everything. Your mind prioritizes the avoidance of emotional distress over physical circumstances. So rather than feel guilt that I couldn't take care of everyone, I created arthritis. And when I started to apply this to other areas of my life, things started to change. My income level grew really quickly to $100,000 a year and then just stopped. And I couldn't figure out why I can't push it further. I know how to make money. I've done it. I built it up really quickly. Why has it stopped? And then when I used the techniques that I learned, when I was a teenager, my friends were like, you got all this talent. You're really smart. You're going to be a millionaire in no time, right? You're going to have that house on the beach. You're going to be traveling the world. And then we get to come hang out with you. We get to stay at your place. We'll travel with you. And they're thinking this is going to be a lot of fun. My mind is going, oh, they're going to all leech off me. As soon as I have lots of money, they're going to leech off me. Oh, hell no. Right? So I made this unconscious decision to get to 100,000, which was comfortable, but not enough that I could go spending on everyone all the time. And I'd been living by that belief. And when I let go of that belief, my income doubled over the next year.
Nice.
And now it's on track for 7 figures this year. Right? And I found similar beliefs in people. Like, here's the thing. If you think that when you make lots of money, people are going to start asking for it, and people will, some people will, but not everyone. And you don't want to have to deal with that. If you don't want your family saying, well, now you got to give us money because you're the one that's rich in the family and take care of us. If you don't want people saying, can you invest in my business? Your unconscious mind is saying, I'm going to make sure you don't make that much money to keep you safe, to avoid that emotional distress of those conversations. Right? And anyone listening, if you had an emotional reaction to those scenarios I played out, you are minimizing your income.
Shiraz, I actually want to bring you back. There was a very specific quote that you shared, and I don't know if it's something that you can repeat, but you said something about holding on to that emotional negative thing. Do you remember what you said?
So I said that your mind will prioritizes the avoidance of emotional distress over physical circumstances.
Can you say it one more time, really, really slow? Because I think it's golden. I haven't heard, and I've talked to a lot of pretty amazing people, and I haven't heard it said that way. And I just want everyone to hear it again.
Your mind prioritizes the avoidance of emotional distress over physical circumstances.
It's really good. It's lasered in.
And the 3 biggest emotions it tries to avoid are guilt, shame, and heartbreak. It will make you sick, make you poor, make you alone, anything to avoid those 3 emotions.
Okay, so now that we have that foundational story, in the time that we have here, talk about what you've created to not just, give your own life momentum and power, but that you've created these access points for not just individuals, but now really groups and, many, many people can now not just witness your story, but really take the tools, the practical tools that you've created to empower their own lives?
So there's two sides to it. Number one is you have to build up mental muscles in order to create the life you want, to get out of the space that you're in. And to do that, you have to hold a thought and the corresponding emotion for 30 seconds or more. That length of time starts the rewiring of the neural pathways in your brain so that you start becoming that person you're envisioning yourself to be. So if you want more money, you have to imagine what it's like to have the money. And what's crucial here, it's not the moment you get it, which is where most people go, okay, I finally got the money. It's months or years down the line where, yeah, I just have that much money. It's comforting. It feels good. There's no worry. You get into those emotions, and that's the person you want to be. And then your brain starts to rewire to think that's the person I am. And then you start manifesting that. But most people can hold a thought for less than 7 seconds. So that's the problem. You got to go 30 seconds or more. So I've created techniques to help you train your brain to get there. That's one half. The other half is finding and letting go of these stories, these beliefs that are running in your subconscious. And I train people how to do this, but I also do this directly on people, and I've gotten results in as little as 5 minutes with people.
Beautiful. So those two tracks are very, very clear. And how do you find that you work with people best? Do people find you through your website? Do you go to a lot of different kind of conferences? Do you travel? How do people find you?
Yes, and yes, actually. So, and I work with people in different capacities, but I find the group is the best because someone will be telling their story and here's the stuff that's coming up for me. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize, but I have that too. And here's the thing, just the awareness of it, just like when I was made aware why I was creating the arthritis, just the awareness of it and the decision to change it can cause the shift in you. Right? I want to be clear with people that I'm not the one doing the shifting when I do these techniques. I'm the guide to the thing you need to shift. And then you make that decision. Yeah, I'm changing that.
So what do those, what does that group program look like? Is it on your website? Do people just kind of apply? Walk us through that group program that you have.
So I have a few. There's a basic group program it's called Monthly Magic. And you can get in there. The group, the bigger it gets, the more powerful it gets, which I love is a great phenomenon because when I first started out, I was worried what happens when it gets really big? Can I get to everyone? But now I'm working on the sixth person, that sixth person saying, oh, thank you, numbers 1 and 3 and 4, because I had all that stuff and that's all cleared now. And and the whole group is filled with people that are determined to change their lives, not people who need to be saved. I make sure that's the energy of the people in the group so that everyone empowers everyone else. But I also have on the high end, I have this thing called I'm just rolling it out. I'm still validating it with some people to make sure it's the best program, $1 Million Impact Makers. And it's for coaches and healers that want to make a big impact. And it takes you from around the 6-figure mark to 7 figures in 3 years or less.
That's amazing. And how long have you been running that, like your basic program? And what are maybe 1 or 2 success stories that you could share from that group?
Oh, yeah. That's been running for years. And there are some people that have been there since the beginning because it's always more stuff you're finding and pulling out and changing and shifting. One of my favorite clients in it, she actually had 2 big things that just blew me away. One was that she wanted to get out there and be speaking. And she ran this event where other people would speak and she just ran in the background. 3,000 people would come out for it online every year. And she comes to me and she says, well, only 1,500 people have registered this year. What the hell? And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm supposed to fix this. And she goes, you said I create everything in my reality. So for some reason, I'm creating half the attendance. I said, well, what's different this year? She said, I'm hosting. I'm like, oh, I thought you always hosted. She goes, no, I run the background. Now I'm hosting. She was worried about goofing up, insulting the guests, falling on her face, all that stuff. We got her free of that. And then 2 days later, when it was time to come on, 8,000 people showed up.
That's quite a breakthrough.
Yeah. And the other one she did was she called me up one day and she goes, my brother and my boyfriend keep fighting, make them stop fighting. And I'm like, how am I supposed to make them stop fighting? This, and she goes, I said, this is the thing about you. And she said, you told me I create everything in my life. So if they're fighting, it's because I want them to fight at some level. And then we found out that both of them were the type of guys that razz other people and, give little jabs and stuff. And she thought if they got along, she'd be the target. So when we got her out of that fear, within hours, they stopped fighting with each other. This is how powerful we are as human beings, right? We affect everyone around us with our stories.
Amazing.
Okay, Shiraz, we have 1 minute left. Let's show the book again because, come on.
There it is. How to rewrite reality.
That's mad.
And Shiraz's website is energeticmagic.com. Please connect with Shiraz. I hope that you've been touched in some capacity by his story today, and that you maybe even just have a glimmer of what if that was possible for me. And the truth is, and I think Shiraz would back me up, it's possible for all of us. Mm-hmm. And it's really just about finding that opening. Hopefully it's this conversation today. Go to Shiraz's website. All his information is there. Contact him if you have any questions whatsoever. But take a moment to ask yourself the simple question, what could be possible for me? And I really hope that people do. Find you, Shiraz. Thank you for being on our show. This is the Being Curious Show with Kelly and Brian, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, everyone.